to a group of Ayatollahs, one of whom is currently the president of Iran. But it ended up with an Ayatollah, a tall guy wearing the turban and stuff, standing over him, yelling at me like this, with his finger like this, yelling at me, saying that they would never accept insults to the Prophet Muhammad. We would have to, you know, I said, look, we watch South Park in the United States, and they have to start all the time. But you know, they won't do that. They won't accept that. How do we hammer out shared values unless we can find something, perhaps through the United Nations? I have a comic I sometimes put out. I didn't bring a PowerPoint show today. Sometimes I have a comic. It shows two guys standing outside the United Nations, and one goes, talk, talk, talk. That's all they ever do. And then he goes, yeah, but if they quit talking, well, I wouldn't want to talk about it. You know, there is a lot of talk, but it's an effort, I think, try and find some shared values. Certainly we've had some interesting moments at the United Nations. We sit in alphabetical order, and of course H is right by all the I's. Israel, Iran, Iraq, Holy See, we're all right there, but of course they're all diplomats and they all get along very well, get to go very well. When my wife took our two eldest daughters to see their daddy working at the UN, that day we were debating over where to buy trash cans for the new International Criminal Court. And my wife always talks about the French diplomat and how suave it sounded. And she's listening to the translation. It sounded very suave, but what he was saying was, can't we just go down to Home Depot where trash cans are €5 and buy them there? Literally, I mean, I'm not making it up. Literally, that was what was going on. Probably the biggest thing, substantively, that I've worked on now is the International Criminal Court. For many years, at first, that's what I was involved with, and we could do a whole talk on that sometime. I'll say I'm a pretty strong critic of the court. It's interesting, I've got a certificate somewhere thanking me as an architect of the court, when all I've ever really done is complain about the problems I think it has. The court grows out of the idea at Nuremberg. So you take the idea, we're going to punish the bad actors. I'm not opposed to punishing bad guys. I always say I'm fat, white, from Mississippi. I'm more conservative than you. Which, yeah, it's funny here, except in Texas. Texas, they get insulted, they say that. Reaching for the gun, you are not. I'm not joking about that either. In 1998, 160 nations, including the Holy See, gathered in Rome and hammered out an agreement, the Treaty of Rome, the Rome Treaty of the International Criminal Court. The idea that we're going to create this permanent court where we will prosecute very bad actors. Think Hitler, think, you know, that kind of level, stuff like that. Not necessarily always just a leader. It could be someone from organized, you know, potentially an Al-Qaeda leader. So it could be like that kind of situation too. Specific crimes under the jurisdiction of the court are crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes, and crime of aggression. They are also broken down further so that the court has jurisdictions over matters such as serious injury to mental health, outrages upon personal dignity, and intentionally directing attacks against historical monuments or buildings dedicated to religion. Another article also sets forth defenses. One of the defenses for the International Criminal Court is intoxication. I've always said, if you wake up Monday morning and you think, man, I think I committed a little genocide over the weekend, you probably have a serious problem. The court's jurisdiction over these crimes is said to be complementary. In other words, the affected state has the first shot to prosecute the wrongdoer. And the court will only take jurisdiction if the affected nation is unwilling or unable to prosecute. What that fundamentally means is the court gets to say you have to prosecute, because if you decide not to, the court will prosecute. That's why Bill Clinton signed the Rome Statute but did not submit the treaty for ratification, saying that there are serious flaws with the court. George W. Bush announced we were unsigning the treaty. Israel has unsigned the treaty. Russia has unsigned the treaty. The Philippines has withdrawn from the court. South Africa is talking about withdrawing from the court. Kenya withdrew from the court in light of its president being prosecuted by the court. And by the way, all these things I thought were entirely foreseeable. These are problems that I co-authored a law review article in Notre Dame Law Journal, law review about this, anticipating that these kind of things were going to come up. I would not have thought they'd come up this quickly, but the court's having serious problems today. Most recently, they were investigating the United States. The United States not being a member of the court doesn't really have jurisdiction, but they were sending investigators over here. The Trump administration denied them visas. So the court dropped the case because they really couldn't come over here to investigate. I'm not opposed to the idea of having procedures in place, even having laws in place, but having a standing court with almost unlimited jurisdiction is highly problematic. The court doesn't provide all the rights that the United States would provide to our criminal defendants. And one of the things that I'll be actually speaking next week at Steubenville, St. Francis University in Steubenville, is how political actors have been able to use the court to announce, I'm filing charges against somebody, knowing that it's not going to, it's like filing a complaint that means absolutely nothing. In fact, it means less than nothing, because the court, there's about 1,000 such filings made every year since the court's been charged. It's been about 1,000 every year. None have ever resulted in prosecution, ever. And yet, about 10 years ago, there was one who they went around to all the major cities in Europe announcing that they were filing charges against the Pope for the child sex abuse thing, which is a horrible thing. I don't deny that, but it's really misusing the court for a political purpose. So I think when we think about shared values, one of my favorite ones is the two lawyers are in front of a judge, and one lawyer objects to what the other lawyer is doing. The guy goes, on what basis do you object? Well, I object on the basis of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. And you don't know the Constitution. I do too know the Constitution. Yeah, let's hear it. The guy goes, okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag. The guy goes, never mind, I didn't think you knew it. We in the United States, we do have shared values. And I think as humans we have shared values. And as lawyers we have special powers. Certainly we have a special calling, a special duty to try to use our abilities at a local level, at a national level, international level. As Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. You all have great power as attorneys and the power to do good things. We have to use those talents to work for justice and for what is right. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do this work and blessed to have a chance to talk to you tonight, so I certainly appreciate your attention. Thank you for listening.
Can I ask?
Absolutely.
On behalf of the Shores-Vance Inn of Court, we have a token of appreciation. This is a granite plaque.
Wow.
It says, in grateful appreciation, Arthur D. Shores, Robert S. Vance, Inn of Court, Birmingham, Alabama, American Inns of Court, Chapter 292. Thank you so
very
much.
I appreciate it.
That's one of the, I think, most stirring presentations we've had in a long time. We really appreciate you coming over. This is terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think my question was, it may take days to explain, but the court that you were just describing, that is prosecuting,
International Criminal Court.
Are there, I'm just curious, who brings I'm a criminal defense lawyer, I'm just curious about the fundamentals of how a case is brought, tried, appealed.
An affected nation can ask for an indictment to be brought.
And who brings them, to whom?
There's a prosecutor. The ICC has a prosecutor. It has to go through the prosecutor's office. And she can, it's currently a woman. First one was a man, it's a woman, and I'm sorry, I'll mess up her name if I don't have it in front of me. But she's from Africa. Because one of the big concerns was they're prosecuting, it seems like, only Africans. So a lot of African nations are very upset about that. So she has the authority to act on her own through her office. If a referral from the Security Council at the UN or the nation. She could also act when a private citizen filed, but like I said, that's never happened now in 15 or so years of the court that they've ever acted on that basis. But they conduct, it's like a prosecutor, I guess, conducting. And that's what they were doing in the United States. We're going to come over here and look and see some of the stuff that happened in
So
Iraq.
they had their own investigators, they were gonna send them over here to investigate.
Yeah, now, if we were a member nation, we'd be obliged to do the investigation and hand it over. We're not a member, so they were sending people over here,
Right.
and we pulled their visas.
Got it. Have there been prosecutions successful through that court, and what?
There have been like 4 prosecutions that have been successful, and at the cost of millions of dollars, and we're talking about over 12 to 15 years or so that the court's been in existence. You know, they've got like 4 convictions. And this is a court that has 18 justices, full staff, investigators, and on the world scale, it's a very well-paying job. So a lot of people want to do it. It doesn't seem to me to make a whole lot. Now, I don't mind, I like having the laws, and I even like having the procedures. That's not why I have a standing court. That's my biggest complaint.
Have penalties been imposed?
Yeah, the very first one, the Lubunga case, which was out of, I believe, the Congo. He ended up getting like 6 years. I mean, which everybody, this is one, that, yeah, everybody thought it was going to, the prosecutors didn't do some stuff right, some charges got dismissed, people were very upset about it. And the thing was, he was basically like the general of a bad army that's going around doing terrible stuff to people, making little boy soldiers, little girls prostitutes, and just brutalizing stuff like that. They caught him, prosecuted him, spent forever prosecuting him, but he had a deputy who stepped right up, and nothing stopped. You know what finally stopped? When they finally negotiated the deal. And see, the ICC is, this is my other longer talk, the ICC is against the idea of negotiating. It's built upon the premise that everybody must be punished, must pay the price for doing these bad things. So you can't negotiate your way out of a deal. And so they wouldn't, any of you remember Kony 2012, the movie? Anybody see that? Joseph Kony is one of these really bad guys too. There's an indictment out against him from the ICC. Uganda wants to bring him to the peace table for negotiations. He says, okay, I'll come. He says, you got to drop your arrest warrants. Uganda says, okay. He says, you also got to drop the one from the International Criminal Court. Uganda says, okay. They call up The Hague and said, you got to lift this because the guy's going to come and talk to us. They said, we don't have a procedure to do that. And we don't want you talking to him because you can't negotiate. He can't negotiate out of this. He's got to be prosecuted. So Kony said, well, then I'm not coming in for talks. Whatever chance there was for a negotiated peace went out the window because the ICC did not allow it, even though the people in Uganda would have been happy for it. So, and by the way, I was in the negotiation before the court was in place, trying to tell people that this was going to happen because I'm not a big international law guy. I'm just like a normal guy who can see what's good, you know, a normal criminal law guy understands that, right? You know, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.